Right, let's try and answer this question that I put out to you all. Thanks for the replies. There's some rippers in there. Um, the question was in episode 14. If you haven't seen it, please go and check it out. There's some other interesting stuff in there. But so we can move on quickly right now, the question was, why do I come out of some corners? I was giving examples of Jerez, two corners that I knew of. Why do I come out, say on the right hand side, my bum's on the right, and as I'm coming out of the corner, I throw my head to the left and upper body. And I genuinely didn't know the answer and wanted to. So since I put the question out there, I've been thinking about it as well. So first thing I did was say to myself, where else do I do that? And it was off the start line. I've always known that. If I start with one foot down, my right foot down, my left foot on the gear lever, as it takes off and the front is hovering, the bike wants to go right, I think, because that one leg is out. And because I know that it goes more straight if I have two legs down, bring the other one up to change gear later. I prefer that. But you notice the shorter riders like Danny Pedrosa, he always starts with one foot down, and then you see compensate with his head, to balance that one foot down. And basically, as you're coming off the line, if you want to steer the bike, you can't with the handlebars, so you steer it with your upper body. Also, when you're showing off doing a wheelie, a nice long one, if the bike is veering right, you have to throw your head off enough body. You end up going down the whole straight like this, because maybe there's a little side wind, or the bike wanted to continue turning right, you need it to go straight. Basically, again, you steer the bike with your head and upper body. Then I broke Jerez down because I was already thinking about Jerez, and I knew I did it on two corners, but it turns out I do it on five. And they're all corners that the next corner goes in the same direction, so you need to stay on the same side of the track. So what it is, I think, is I'm coming out of the turn, the front's off the ground, I need to keep low, but I can't put effort into the bar because the front's not on the ground, but I need the bike to straighten up and stay on that side. For example, the tight rights at Jerez, the double tight right, I'm driving down to the fast tight rights. As I come out of there, because the bike's leaning, it's going to continue turning right. I need it on the left, up on the paint, because I need to get the best angle of entry into the next corner. So I'm fighting to get it to keep left with the front off the ground. And it's the same all the way around the track. It was the same thing. I need to keep it on the left or the right, wherever it is. I'm using my head to do it because I can't put. So there could be some other stuff in there, and I'm sure there is, like anti-wheelie or whatever. But the main thing, I believe, is you're trying to control the direction of the bike when the front is not on the ground. I hope that simple explanation suffices. So I've got a question here from Joe V and a couple of other people asking about braking. And the first part of his question says braking, the transition between full throttle and hard braking. I thought it was worth bringing up there because it comes up quite often, is you can't go from full throttle to brake hard too quickly. There's always a slight delay in there because otherwise there's, again, no weight on the front. And if you grab that brake, it's going to go. And one of the most scary places that example makes you do it correctly, or you're going to go down if you don't, is, again, going back to Le Mans, turn one. Because turn one, you're still leaning over. And I wait for the bike to come up a little bit and with the throttle shut to brake, because the last thing you want to do is be leaned over. Think about this, anywhere you're leaned over and you have to go to the brake, you have to get some weight back on the front before you pull that lever. So don't go too quickly from throttle on to brake. Make sure there's just a moment, make sure you feel that weight go on and then on it, because otherwise the front's going to go. The second part of this question from Joe, he brings up how much weight on the handlebars do I put under braking, And I hear a lot of people ask questions about, not wanting to put weight on the handlebars because it'll make the forks bottom, or I sit back and squeeze the tank with my knees, and for whatever reason that helps. But the thing is, no matter what you do, if the bike, you take a snapshot of a bike with the front on the ground, the rear off, hard on the brakes, no matter where you put your weight, all of it is going to end up going through the forks into the front tyre. There's nothing we can do about that. It's all going to end up there. So I think it's more about saving your energy, If everything's going on your arms, it's hard to race for 40 minutes. It's hard to do a 20-minute session even if you're not awesomely fit. So also, they're sitting back and squeezing the tank with your knees. The problem is that means you are not prepared for the corner. It means you have to, somewhere between that braking area and turning in, move over, which I said in previous episode, I don't agree with that. You've got to get prepared before the corner. So the other thing that takes weight off my arms, and I want to do that because I want to save energy, is using that fuel tank. And I don't squeeze it with my knees. I'm already off to the side, remember? So I'm braking, and that inner thigh is pushing on the back of the tank, the back side of the tank. And believe it or not, I can brake at a pretty high level. I'm talking back skipping around on the way in, and take my left hand off the bar, to wave at someone or go thumbs up, because my lower body is taking a fair bit of the weight on that inner thigh. And then when you you get that bike half lean braking towards the corner. In my MotoGP book and videos, I've spoken about stealing meters, which on entry, it's very similar to on exit. The more you lean your body off on entry or exit, the further up the bike is, and the more you can get out of those tires, because the more you lean over, the less grip you got. So I'm holding the bike up, hard on the brakes, still on full. Say I'm going into a right-hander, my left leg is hooked around the tank. I'm taking a lot of the braking force with that, so there's not too much on my arms. I'm leaning off the side of the bike, holding the bike up for the few more meters more so I can stay on full. And it feels like majority of weight is going through my leg rather than my arms. The other thing is to consider in this time, if the rear lets go, what I learnt years ago, I would say about 96 on the Muzzy Kawasaki, if the rear let go and when it came back into line, if it came back quickly, what it does is push your bum and throw your weight onto the front, and a good chance of the front letting go. So what I'd always do is stay hooked around that tank there, and as it came back into line and threw me forward, I would make sure my arms soaked up that, because if I had stiff arms then, it just shoved the front and I went down. I've got a question about MotoGP in front of me, about Fabio Quartararo from Mr. PP. And in his question, he states that results like that were only attainable as a rookie due to the crew chief, Diego Gubellini. And he's an experienced electronics engineer as well as a crew chief and many other talents. And I agree, Diego was a part of that combination that needs to come together to get the sort of results Fabio did. But I'd say top of the list in that combination is Fabio himself. The rider's the most important part of the puzzle. Second, I would put Yamaha, because the Yamahas are clearly the most easy bike for the majority of people to ride. Everyone that gets on them can ride them. Look at Johan Zarco, went from Moto2 to leading his first MotoGP. Yeah, he crashed, but he was leading, and he had many other good results after that. Everyone that gets on the Yamaha can ride it. And it's arguable which is better to win a championship, a more rideable bike or the pure speed of the V4 that seems to need the rider to change his style to suit those bikes. And it seems like the V4s are further from Moto 2, so it's a bigger adaptation going from Moto 2 to the V4s. But I hope that answered your question.